What are the earliest memories of being around the business you have, and what did they teach you?
That's not always the case, but just weeding away those type of contractors, I think that is the good side of something like this.
That's so deep.
I think they're afraid of their competition. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that I still don't know yet, a lot of things I still, want answers to.
It can't be figured out, the roofing is too complicated.
Man, it was very, very challenging.
I'm gonna give you one reason to watch this episode all the way to the end. All right, guys, we are here sitting with Jeffrey Linta at Linta's Roofing, Myrtle Beach in North Carolina, South Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. I always mix. For some reason in my brain, Myrtle Beach is North Carolina. I don't know why. I'm going to give you one reason to watch this episode all the way to the end. This guy does not know it yet, but in 2021, we nominated Monarch Roofing, their competitor, as a company of the year. Along with Eustis Roofing out of Florida, and both companies we could not pick, so they both won in 2021. 4 years later, I am nominating Linta Roofing for Company of the Year of Roofing Insights. We're bringing awards back this year, and this is one of the companies at the top roster. In 2 weeks, we're going to announce who the company is. So that gives you a little bit, high plank standard to understand that this is not just an interview, this is not just a podcast. Hope it's enough reasons for you, but here's my prediction. In a CrossFit game, so I'm a CrossFitter, obviously. It's a cult, you always have to talk about CrossFit, but yeah. There's a great analogy. So we had several champions over the years, and the director of the games, his name is Dave Castro. So we have one guy who won CrossFit Games four times. His name is Rich Froning. Another one, Matt Fraser, won it for 5 years. But a couple of years ago, Dave Castro, who designed the games and challenges, he made very bold announcement, which is very rare for him. At one of the local regional events, he said, that guy is special. He's going to be the champion. And he just predicted it. Yeah. And last year, that guy won.
Wow.
4 years later. So I predict that Linta is going to be one of the leaders, not only in this market, but in the country after I've seen everything I've seen. With that, wow. Let's dive into your story. So I want to hear your origin story of Linta's Roofing all the way from the start and to 2023 when you took over.
Yeah. Wow, I got a ways to go back. And first, Dimitri, I'm so glad you guys are here. I've got to follow you from afar and see just the value that you've brought to the roofing community. And so it's exciting to kind of come full circle and to be face to face in front of you. And I appreciate everything that you have to say about us here at Linta Roofing. And I'm excited to share more about us, our story. So Linta Roofing was originally Jeff Linta Roofing and Construction, and began here in the Myrtle Beach area, out of North Myrtle Beach, in 1985. I come from a family of contractors. So my grandfather in Mansfield, Ohio, was a general contractor, and my father worked for him growing up, just like I worked for my father. But 1985, when my grandfather retired, my dad moved here to the beach with my mom, decided he was going to buy the truck that my grandfather had and a couple small pieces of tools and move to the beach and never come back. And so that's where Jeff Linta Roofing and Construction really began here at the coast. And a general contractor is, what we were. So a little bit of windows, siding, addition, gutters, whatever would come. As my dad would tell it, he said he would do whatever to make ends meet, right? Whether that was, cleaning a driveway or removing debris from someone's backyard to just get things going. And so that's how things really started here at the beach. And for many, many years, from 1985, I entered the picture in 2017. And so joined the company, and I grew up full-time working with my parents in 2017, but I grew up, in a family business, right? I got to see my mother and father, just how hard they worked. The office was always ran out of the home. So I got to be really close to what was going on day to day. And high school summers, college summers, I got to work for them. So that was my first job. First job I ever had was tearing off shingles on a roof in River Hills in Little River. So I got to experience firsthand really what hard work felt like. And so I didn't realize how thankful I would be for those experiences till later in life came. But that being said, I came and joined the family in 2017. I was actually a repair guy. And so, I had done roofing, I'd been on crews, and became good at doing the repairs. So anytime we had to repair an issue, I would be the one to actually go in and to do the repairs. So I would go out and, fix whatever leaks or a skylight or any of the specialty things on shingle roofs. And 2018 came. We had a significant storm that came through, and a bunch of calls were coming, and they said, well, Jeffrey, you can just go and take some of these. We've got a bunch of calls. Why don't you go first? You've been with us a long time and kind of know what your dad has to say when you get in front of a homeowner. And so, I went out and met with that homeowner, and it was a 20-year-old roof, and they had a whole bunch of damaged shingles on the roof. And really, I knew how much repairs I had to do. So one, they needed a new roof, and then two, I didn't want any more to do. So I helped them see really why a new roof was the smartest decision for them, which it was, given the age of the roof and the amount of damage that they had. They ended up buying a new roof, and my parents said, hey, I think that you will do better for us in this world. And so, which kind of entered me into the side of sales. Over the next couple of years, we just continued to grow, put more focus into roofing, just with the opportunities that we saw. And just tragedy stuck our family in 2022. So in late of 2021, my father came down with COVID. And unexpectedly, he ended up having to be hospitalized. So, my sister is a nurse, and so we knew he wasn't doing well. He was at the home. He was that old school guy that just would not go to the doctor, didn't want to see anybody, but we knew something wasn't right. And so my sister checked his oxygen levels, and it was down below a 70 at the house. And so we immediately rushed, him to the hospital, and this was late 2021. And so it was a challenging time. We were just much smaller at the time. It was my mother, my father, myself, and just a few other people that were on our team. So Dad was in the hospital until he passed in February of 2022. And so, yeah, thank you. And so it was definitely a challenging time for us. And in the midst of those challenges, we were continuing to grow. My fiance at the time, my now wife, and my mother, my sister, my brother-in-law, we were spending, those several months taking turns staying with my father, seeing he wasn't really getting the care he needed, staying overnight. So there would be nights where I'm in the hospital with him overnight, and then going and meeting with homeowners the next morning about their roof, or going and checking on an install to make sure that it meets our expectations. And so, we learned a lot through some really challenging times. But the Lord has blessed us incredibly. We've, continued to grow and learn. And after 2022 had happened, we decided to make that full move into 100% roofing. Sought out just wise counsel and mentorship, and just through those different people in our lives have just learned so much. And brought in an operating system. We're an EOS company. Really reworked the framework, the structure, and started to create a leadership team, started to create vision, direction, processes, procedures, provide clarity for our team here at Linta Roofing, and continue to grow. And so here we are today, very blessed.
This is brand new business building. So you moved here this year. You
Yeah.
bought it and you built it.
Yes.
2023.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's, by the way, they're $8 million company. Look way bigger than $8 million company. It's definite potential. My question is on a business model. So if your father, your grandfather, and yourself, do you say no to a lot of opportunities? Because your family has been in business for 40 years. And
Yes.
a lot of contractors don't understand the power of, I always say, like, doing less is doing more, right? Like a lot of contractors, I think it comes from insecurity, because you always want to be busy, provide for your family. It's hard to say no. How did you manage to say no to all other trades and focus on one?
Great question. I saw that was our opportunity to be excellent at being a roofing contractor. We saw that was the most value that we could bring to our community. And so saying no to all of those other things allowed us to build scalable and repeatable systems. Also to create a consistent process for our homeowners. If we do many different things, it's nearly impossible to do them well. For example, I got to see all those different trades, and I imagined, hey, if we've got a lot of Cherry Grove beach houses that have cedar siding on them and actually no OSB behind them. Well, just an example of how is a salesperson supposed to know if they see vinyl siding, how to replace those windows, for example? Is it multiple layers of siding? Just the amount of training that someone has to have a sales rep, for example, or a production supervisor to understand just roofing, but 5 different trades, it is so unrealistic that you'll be able to build a repeatable process to create a great service for your customers. And so recognizing that and doubling down on the things that we see is the way we can provide the most value to this community is what we decided to do. And it has by all means allowed us to grow and create a better experience for our customers.
What are the earliest memories of being around the business you have, and what did they teach you?
Oh my gosh, man. I've got endless memories. I don't even know where to begin with this. Um, I mean, a lot of, late hours, my parents working, just putting in the time. Um, my parents are incredible, and they were always there at all of my events, and they always just put in so much work. It never stopped, 24/7. I saw how much demand was on them, and just even the challenges with, team members. I'll never forget, I was like 13, 14 years old, and my dad and I had to go get a truck from a guy that wasn't working out. And so I went with him to his house to then take the company vehicle. As peaceful as it could be, as peaceful as it could be. Nothing crazy, but just us going to, get a vehicle. And, it was very cool to see. And also just learn so much. There's so many, beliefs that they help to instill in me that help us be what we are today.
When did you realize you would eventually lead the company?
I guess that really came real in 2022. When I decided to come back and join my family business, I felt that was what I wanted to do. And so I also thought this was going to be a lot later in life, right? That there was going to be more things that would take place. There'd be more experience that I would gain and more things that I would understand. But that really became real in 2022, that this is a right now thing. And so I also, as challenging as it was, see how much we learned, through those challenging circumstances, and the wise counsel that came into our life that really have helped us to learn so much and to help us do what we're doing today. But I would say that 2022 is really when it set in that, hey, it's either do or not. This is the moment to decide.
So which part of the business you learned first, and what was the most important? Was it repairs or sales? Or
it was repairs. I mean, when I was first with them, I of course was physically doing roofing, and then also anytime leaks appeared or if a customer called about an issue, I was that first point of contact.
So warranty.
And I learned so much about roofing by seeing where issues would come from, whether that's, nailing is one of the most common issues, whether that's improper nailing or even nails backing through, the issues that can come with flashing, the common areas that problems would come from, and then fixing those things. And so doing that really helped me learn a lot about roofing.
What's early mistake in company's history that you've made that still, influences how you operate today?
We've made lots of them. I'm trying to think of the one that's most impacted the way we make decisions today. Yes. So I would say one that is still impacting the way we do business today is having that on-site job superintendent that is 100% focused on the customer's experience. So there was a time where we had a superintendent that had a split focus. They were partly focused on the homeowner, but they were also partly focused on talking to the neighbors in order to just grow our brand and our presence. And what we recognize is that split attention, it really caused that superintendent to do neither of them super well. They weren't providing an incredible focus on the customer, making sure that all of their questions were answered, that they were available at any moment, and they weren't doing an excellent job of really growing brand because they had that split focus. So making that change to our superintendent's only goal is to make sure our customers understand what's going on, that there is 100% transparency in the process, that their questions are answered immediately, and if there's issues, they are fixed before the job is even close to being finished, and that our customers are taken care of.
Very good perspective, because most business owners, they want to squeeze everything out of every opportunity.
Yeah.
We want to advertise in the neighborhood. We want to,
Yeah.
and many don't even want superintendents because it's extra cost. Sub it out, deal with it later.
I think that's a terrible decision. I think you can't afford not to have somebody there 100% of the time, making sure that that job is above expectations. Our goal is not just to have a happy customer, but to build customer advocates. And what that means is that customer is going out of their way to tell people about Linta Roofing because we're changing the standard for what people think about contractors. And so that is that superintendent's goal. That is what our production manager is casting vision for in our superintendents every single day. We have that constant communication of this is what an advocate looks like, and this is how we help to create advocates of Linta Roofing.
I would describe Linta as a legacy company. What do you think, what do people misunderstand about legacy roofing companies like second, third generations?
I think that there can be a stigma, around those legacy companies that the next generation may not have an understanding about how to really do this well. I would say it's less about the legacy and more about the person that's stepping into that seat. Right? I think it takes a unique person that's very motivated and committed to providing or creating an excellent business. And whether that's the next generation or whether that's the next company coming up, I think that's what's most important about what's driving a business forward. And so if you've got someone that's truly a great leader that is raising up their family, then I think there's a great opportunity for that company to continue to be successful. And not everyone is built to be entrepreneurial. So that may not be the case. But for the family businesses that continue, I believe it's really about who is driving that ship and the team ultimately that they're building. One person making all the decisions makes for a really bad organization. But a team with unique abilities, with unique perspectives that see things that, let's say, the owner doesn't, calls out those issues, incredible trust and transparency on that leadership team where we can call out one another on a peer-to-peer level and have those hard conversations is what really creates excellence. So someone that's willing to go first, be vulnerable as a leader, talk about the things that they're learning and growing in, put right people in the right seat, put them operating aside their unique ability, and then help them to cultivate those unique abilities, championing them to continuing to improve. I believe that's what makes a great organization. And whether it's a multi-generation one or one that's starting, it can be true for either.
Love it. How would you define the Linta way in 3 core values? I know you probably have like 10, 20 of them somewhere on the wall, but top 3.
Servant leader. Servant leader, I would say, is at the very top of that list. And so we believe that the leader exists to serve the people, not the people existing to serve the leader. So as a leader, my duty is to get barriers out of the way for my team members, to see the challenges that they're facing, to help them to overcome them, to work with them and coach them and train them through those issues. And that means at the sacrifice of my time, of the things that I need to do. So putting myself in a position to make sure my team members are successful. And that's what each leader is doing here as well. So, servant leader, you said 3, right? Ownership of results, all right? Owning your outcomes regardless of the circumstance. Look, there's environments, there's weather, there's outside factors that happen, but at the end of the day, we are responsible for the outcomes. Whether you're leading a team, whether you're the one that's on the job, whether you're the one that's roofing it, and myself, responsible for the outcomes of this business, of your teams. And so owning those results and then ultimately seeing, hey, even if something happened, we have something to own here. So what can we improve? How can we make improvements to be better regardless of circumstance? And I would say as a last one, enthusiastic. We've got a team of people that are incredibly enthusiastic about their work. Yes, casting that vision that this is a place not just to come to work, right? Yes, we go to work to make money and to do all those things. That is a part of it. And when we take our work personally, we see our work, what we do, as a vehicle to help people improve their lives, to help people be better leaders, which ultimately help them to be better team members, family members, parents. This is a vehicle for people to learn those disciplines, learn those skills, and to be better people. And when we can realize as an organization, that's what we are doing, we're providing an excellent experience and an excellent product to our customers along the way. When we can see that that's what we're really doing here, then we can take this so seriously and personally to know it's up to us individually, every person here at Linta Roofing, to grow personally so then we can continue to contribute, we can continue to create a great environment, we can continue to provide an excellent service to our customers.
Great answers, man. I have a few questions that are going to be very hard emotionally. It's even hard for me to ask, but I have to, because I can't imagine what you went through. But what was the emotional, professional reality of stepping into a leadership role after your father's passing?
Yeah. Man, it was very, very challenging. Um, it was, there's so many experiences I'm recalling back to. And even just, sitting there with my father at his bedside and, knowing, I mean, you know what it's like to operate a business. There's challenges, things that you have to do, knowing I have to do those things, and then trying to be, being present with my father, in his last moments, not making that our conversations, just recognizing, hey, like there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that I still don't know yet, a lot of things I still, want answers to. And so there was a lot of, I don't know. I think that the biggest emotion I was feeling was just, am I going to lose my father? And so the business really came secondary. I know how important our customers are to us, and so they got my 100% attention. I would say probably most of our customers didn't even realize what was going on behind the scenes. But yeah, it was a very, very challenging time. Some customers, along the way you build relationships with, and I got to have some really, intimate conversations and some people that were very encouraging. But yeah, it was a very challenging time, to say the least.
Of course. How did you manage grief while still showing up as a leader for your team?
I think at the time, I really put my head down and kept pushing. I knew that if I lost my focus or if I wavered, I felt that not just the company that my father had started, but my family, our customers, that they would suffer. And so really at the time, I think the grieving came later. I think the grieving came later as some of the dust started to settle, and even to give you more context, when my father went into the hospital in November, he again passed in February of 2022, but around January, he actually started getting better. And the doctor had told us that they thought he would come home. He would still be on oxygen, all these other things, and the office was ran on my parents' house at the time. And so what I started doing was looking for an office we could rent, because he was still not in great health. And if we had people coming in and out, then he could get sick, right? He was likely going to be bedridden. And so I started looking for an office and for a facility to operate the business, so that way we could move it out. He could come home and be at my parents' home, and then we could run things without the risk of him being sick. So I found a place, set up for us to start the moving, and actually the day after he passed was the day that we were set to move into our office that we used to be in before we were here. And so he passed away, and then the very next morning we were set to move everything into our new office and facility. And so, yeah, it was very, very challenging. And so, but yeah.
But you also got married about the same time. So
Yeah.
how did those two, so you getting
Yeah.
married, you look like, how did your perspective changed?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Do you feel like you grew up too fast, like accelerated growth
Yeah.
in 1 year?
I definitely think so. Yeah, I got married in October of 2022, my wife, Erica. And so my father she was my fiance at the time, he got to meet her. And so I'm so, so thankful that that was the case. And he's very just, he was so excited. My sister and I actually got married within 2 months of each other. So I got married in October, she got married in December. We're the only two kids. And so, that happening right after my father's passing in February. And so, but in regards to growing up quick, man, there was a lot to learn really quickly. And I would say the biggest thing, and I just saw God's provision in this, was wise counsel around me. And so there was wisdom and multitude of counsel. I went and sought that and was able to get connected with some people that have mentored me and just has helped us accelerate our thinking, our perspective. And it's been definitely a time of accelerated growth and learning. And so out of all the challenges, those are some of the things we learned.
I want to ask on that. Do you feel like mentorship is underappreciated, maybe the word, or so many people in the industry I see push back on mentors, push back on paid coaches, free coaches. They just they glorify their experience, they glorify what they can do, and I feel like there's so much opportunity, like whether it's your marriage, whether it's your business, whether it's your personal issues. Like, give me a perspective on mentorship now.
Yeah. I think that the denial of that is, often out of pride. And so, again, the seeking of wise counsel, of mentorship, I mean, that's a cornerstone, a milestone that has helped us to grow. I believe it's vital in whatever it is that you're trying to learn. So I love to learn. I'm a big reader. I'm constantly in pursuit of, hey, what's our pain that we're facing? And then how can I go learn from somebody that is 20 steps ahead of me? If I'm learning how to market and grow a brand, if I'm learning how to be excellent at sales, if I'm learning how to provide incredible customer experience, who's at the peak of doing that well? And how can I go learn from them? And okay, maybe we could just learn through our own experiences, but we can extend that time out over 10 years. Why would I do that, even if it costs to invest in our knowledge and understanding, to accelerate that, to do that in 1 year, 2 years? The return that we can get for the 8, where we learn this new knowledge, this new information that leverages us to continue to grow. I can't imagine how someone would decide to run a business and not be 100% invested in learning and growing from people that have gone farther, right? And so we are constantly in pursuit of mentorship, of knowledge, of learning from people that do it better.
So good. I can tell you guys, he is way ahead of his years, of his age. I meet people all the time. You have a mindset of like 50-year-old. You what, 28?
I am 31.
31.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like 31, he's 10 years younger than me. But let's talk about your leadership. I've seen you leading your team. What was the scariest moment when you took this role? Now you're the leader.
Yeah.
You have leadership team.
Yeah.
What was the scariest, realizing that everything is on your shoulders now?
I think it was a lot of perspective change that came. And so just being a smaller organization, we kind of didn't have a leadership team. We did not have one. And so it was realizing, I saw how hard my parents worked their entire life, that they owned this business, and also that this business owned them in some ways. And so I believe that in order for us to have more freedom, to create a better experience for our customers, a better environment for our team members, that means bringing in higher level leaders. And so it was that, shedding away the beliefs of, oh, no one's going to care as much as you do, or you can't put people in place, or, those often limiting beliefs that can get in the way of growing a team, of growing a leadership team that's creating an impact on the organization as a whole. And that, hey, I'm at the time when my father passed, I was 27 years old. Are people going to come in and follow me? Right? Hey, I'm this young guy. Am I going to be able to recruit a top level person to come in and follow me? Are they going to be committed to following this young leader? And really what I learned along the way is yes, they want people that are competent, and they want people to follow someone that is truly committed to the cause that they're after, and that cares about their customers, that cares about their team. And when they're able to see that, and when you're able to be vulnerable and transparent as a leader, talk about the things that you're learning, talk about your strengths and your weaknesses, people are willing and wanting to commit to that person. When they can see how they fit in the big picture of your vision, and they see that you're committed to being better every single day, not with your words, not with your lip service, but with your behavior. How you behave, how you lead your team, how you lead with empathy. When that is seen, regardless of someone's tenure or level of experience, I've seen that they are willing to commit to be a part of that bigger picture, regardless of my tenure in an industry. And so, I've also learned that wisdom and knowledge doesn't always come with years. Those that are in pursuit of new knowledge and new understanding, you can significantly expedite where you're at in your understanding when you commit to learning and growing, whatever it is that you want to be better at. And so just because someone's been in an industry for 30 years, they maybe have been doing the same thing they did in year one for the last 30 years. 100%. And it does not mean that they're excellent. And so really just being in pursuit of people that constantly want to learn and grow, having those people on our team is what has allowed us, to continue to grow.
Great answers. What behind the scenes moments are you the most proud of that year? Like last 2 years, like behind the scenes, nobody's seen it, but you're like, that was good.
I would say growing our leadership team. I've got a leadership team, a head of our residential production department, a head of our repairs department, a head of finance, a marketing director, and a sales manager that all report to me directly. And so really, I'm most proud of building that foundation. In the last couple of years, we've really built the legs that Linta Roofing is going to stand on for years, for decades to come. And really the processes and procedures that we've created. I believe a great business creates systems, procedures, and processes that can take a C- player and make them a B+, A- player because of the clarity on roles. And again, we talked about not doing too many different things. If we're installing roofs, okay, and I've got a superintendent that's overseeing that job site, I can clearly map out everything that they need to know through checklists to say, hey, these are all the things that you need to do. These are all the photos that need to be taken. These are all the things that you need to look out for in order for this to be a wonderful install. These are all the touch points that you need to have with the customer in order for them to make sure that they understand that you're there, you're paying attention, that you're supervising their job, and that you're competent on what's actually happening on the job site. I can provide that training and resources, and us then staying the course of doing it again and again and again, and refining it, not looking at the next shiny thing and trying to go a whole different direction just because we got a little bit of momentum. But being disciplined and staying the course and creating those processes, creating the internal framework, I would say that's what I'm most proud of, and that's what's going to give us the leverage to continue to grow. I believe that great businesses, people often get it wrong. They think marketing first, they think sales first. It is a great service. It is a great offering to your customer is how you win in business, and the rest is just an accelerator. If you try to market and brand your business without wowing your customers, whether that's your product or your service, you're getting it wrong. So staying focused on that core and then just using the rest as an accelerator is what I'm most proud of, because I believe we do that really, really well.
Love it. Let's talk about those processes. What do you do here different today than your competition? Why did you adopt instant online estimates? I know you have Roofle, and what problem does it solve for the homeowners? Let's talk about your experience. Shout out to Roofle. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah. We believe in transparency. And that is in every single aspect. Pricing is one of the biggest things. Customers, and we've seen these studies that customers do 80% of the buyer's journey before they ever actually speak with a company. So they're going to websites, they're checking on pricing, but where the roofing industry is missing it is one of the biggest things they don't talk about is cost and price. If I'm going to someone's website, I got my garage floor coated maybe 6 months ago, and I was going on a Saturday because that was the only time I had to really look, and looking through different quotes, and I was, there'd be a button that says, get pricing, and then the form says, fill out the form to get a quote. How frustrated am I? I just want to know about what this is going to cost. I'm not even looking for the cheapest guy. I just want someone to do an excellent job. Then I get to another website where I say, hey, this is about what it's going to cost. These are the ranges. What do I immediately do? I trust this company more. They are confident in their pricing. They know what they're going to charge. They're transparent about what it is that they do. So I'm more likely to believe that they're going to do a good job for me.
Why do you think so many roofers push back and say, it can't be figured out, the roofing is too complicated, roofing is not like buying a car, so it's not your Carvana, it's not, right? Like, I never could understand. I'm like, technology is already, say, 80% there. It's not perfect. How close are your estimates to final estimates?
Yeah. I'd say within about 8%.
8%. Why so many roofers push back?
I think they're afraid of their competition. They're afraid of their competition. Everything they do is focused around their competition and not around their customers. I'm willing to talk
That's
about.
so deep.
I'm willing to talk about whatever it is that I can do to add value to my customers. It doesn't matter what my competition sees or thinks. And if that means me being transparent about cost and price, and I can win the trust of my community, I'm going to do that. And when we talk about price and how much do they know how much we charge? If my competition is smart, they know how much we charge already. So this is not a surprise to them. Why am I so foolish or vain to think that is the differentiator, right? So being transparent and providing a service that's tailored toward my customers and not towards my competition is really what we're leaning into.
Amazing answer. Amazing, because everybody already knows. It's just you putting in a website or not putting in a website does not change anything. Man, love it. Why do you believe that instant pricing is the future of roofing?
We talked about 80% of customers, are the buyer journeys online. I think that's going to happen more and more and more. And so people want speed, people want less friction, people want it to be easy, to be clear. We talked earlier in saying, hey, if you can take an 8-minute thing and make it 1 minute, that's what somebody who's really got it can do. I think the same thing is true in the entire roofing process. So how can we smooth it out? How can we make it simpler? How can we make information more available, more accurate, more of a buyer's experience to where they can do as much as they want before they ever talk to a salesperson. And then when they're ready, when they have the information that they need, when they feel comfortable and confident to talk with somebody, they're educated enough, right? I know if I'm buying something, I want to know enough about it before I talk to a salesperson. But when they're educated enough, then they come and have the conversation and are ready to talk with a salesperson. So I believe people are going to lean more and more into that type of frictionless environment. And so that's why I think that's what the future has to hold.
Love it. You pay your sales reps a salary. I mean, it's a model, right? Like, why that model, and what behaviors does it encourage?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things is stability. You know, I want to create an environment where a salesperson is not just turning and burning and gone every year, every 2 years. So much of sales, with that 1099 especially, you have huge fluctuations. You have way ups in commissions, way downs, storms that come in, inconsistency in leads and opportunities. And so that instability creates turnover, and there's a lot of costs that you don't really see that are ultimately affecting your business. And that's ultimately causing companies have to charge more to their customers. But when you create an environment that's more predictable, more repeatable, more stable, we're able to continue to reinvest in our salespeople, educate them, they're staying around longer, and then we're not then moving those next investments into training the next rep to learn from zero, right? Our reps did not come from the roofing industry. In fact, we want people that aren't originally in the roofing industry. We can educate them on roofing, we can educate them on everything they need to know, and I'm seeing that anytime we have hired people that were from other roofing companies, and the majority of those times there's huge amounts of bad habits and bad behaviors that are built in to what those sales reps are being taught. And so, for those reasons, we're looking for people outside of the industry.
So good. How does salaried sales change hiring and accountability in the company?
It definitely steps up the level of accountability that you've got to hold, those standards that you've got to hold for your team members. I think, what is accountability? It's leadership plus management. Leadership plus management equals accountability, right? We have leadership vision. Hey, sales rep, team member, here's where you can go, right? These are the potentials. These are the opportunities for you to get there. Management, the numbers, tracking them. Hey, this is your weekly revenue requirement. These are your number of referrals that you're required to get. Meeting and going back to those numbers every single week in a team environment to where there's that team accountability. And ultimately, that buy-in from the leadership, that clarity from the management is ultimately what creates accountability for your team members. I can't make you accountable, but when we create great leadership and we manage our team well, then it creates accountability. So it's about having managers in place that can do that very well.
Let's talk about this building right here.
Yeah.
So your dad, your grandfather, they worked out of their homes. And a lot of people are watching here. They think you can be successful for many, many years working out of your house. And people try to justify it. Why to add overhead? And by the way, comment below if you ever work out of your house. I've never met a person who rented a business location or bought something for the business and regretted it. Like, everything changed. What was your vision? You spent $2 million here. Give me a big plan, because you're $8 million company with a $2 million building. It's ambitious.
Yes.
What's behind it?
Yes.
You want to all in.
Yeah, we're all in. We are so serious about creating an excellent environment for our customers. And there's so many reasons why we would decide to build a facility like this. One, to attract team members that are serious professionals. If I'm bringing in a sales manager that's at a high level, a marketing director, a CFO, I'm bringing someone in that's serious about their work, and they're coming and working out of my spare bedroom, the environment, when I bring them to a facility that is a professional environment, it changes the standard, it changes the type of people that are wanting to come and join us. It also just creates a presence in our market. It shows this market that we're serious, that we're planting our flag in the ground, that we're doubling down, that the things that we say are true are in fact true, and that we're making those commitments to our community to grow. And so, we talk about revenue, and I think there's a lot of vanity that comes in that. But at the end of the day, a company that's ran well, that's intelligent, they're able to then reinvest in the organization and create an environment like this that enables us to grow, that allows us to bring in more team members, that allows us to reinvest in the future. And this is just a vehicle to help us do that and to tell our community we are so serious about what we do.
Love it. What KPI you tracking? Like, what's your key metrics that tell you that you're delivering premium customer service experience?
Yes. So we customer survey every single customer. So every customer does get a customer survey. We get feedback from them on, I believe it's 7 different factors. But the most important one is, would you recommend us to someone else? That is the thing that we determine good, not good. Okay? There's many other things that we ask. We're getting those customer feedback from every single customer. And as you know, if someone's less satisfied with their experience, they're more likely to then leave a review or to give us that feedback, right? In our last quarter, we went through, and every single one of our jobs, 99% of our customers would recommend us to someone else. So I think we replaced, what was the statistic? I think we replaced 250 roofs, 230 roofs, and there was only 1% out of that that said, instead of saying, I would recommend you to your customers, that I was happy with my experience and I want to have someone to have a conversation with. And so, but that is a great result.
You think it's because of superintendents or the whole process? Let's talk about the whole journey here. How do your homeowner emails and updates reduce the stress and confusion?
Yeah.
Like, what leads them to that? Like, hey, I recommend you.
It's I believe it is all about creating transparency and setting appropriate expectations for what is really going to take place. So we do that throughout our entire process. I think there's a lot of things that come into play. One, being upfront in our sales process, we are super transparent about the things that will affect cost and price, what a homeowner needs to do before the job comes out. Some of the ways that we do that, we do of course have sales sheets where our team members walk through that. It's in our proposals, and our sales team is actually required to have homeowners sign that just to make sure that every single homeowner has reviewed it. Those homeowners are also getting what to expect videos before we ever come out to talk about everything that's going to happen. Hey, that during a tear off, it's going to be messy. We're going to do all of the things that we possibly can to protect your home. And if something happens, we are going to make sure that it is taken care of and that it is fixed and we leave your home better than we left it. And so, but setting those expectations up front, talking about all of the things that could go wrong. Hey, we could tear off your roof and there could be an AC line that's directly in the roof deck and a mansard part of the roof, and a nail hits it. And this is what happens if that takes place. And this is how we respond to that situation. And just providing clarity around all those scenarios, it sets the standard for how it's going to go. There's a huge amount of distrust in construction in general, and especially in the roofing industry, between homeowners and roofing contractors. So our goal is to be radically transparent with our customers so that way they know everything that's going to happen. And we have seen that as soon as there's a loss of trust, then everything is downhill from there. So we are fighting to be radically transparent, to let homeowners know exactly what's going on, to be above and in front of anything that could take place, not to fabricate and say it's going to go differently, but to tell them really what it is, so that when if it happens, they're not surprised, and we can make sure that it's taken care of and that they have had an excellent experience when it's all said and done.
Love it. Let's finish the podcast on a big industry talk about PE, Monarch Roofing. It's your territory. What's happening in the marketplace, in your opinion?
Yeah.
So Monarch now, after they bought, so there's a lot of layovers from PE firms who've bought local companies, and I know a few around this area. What's the word on the street, right?
Yeah.
Like companies like yours going to the top, and I feel like people who've been on the top now kind of going down. Do you see it that way?
Yeah. You know, when it comes to private equity coming into the market, there's definitely some changes. They're changing the way that they sell. A lot of times when a private equity comes and purchases a roofing company, first thing that changes is their price. You know, we've seen price double with some larger brands, right?
Do you feel like it's good for the market, companies like yours, or is it bad?
I would say that I have a mixed review there. I think time is what we really need to see how it kind of plays out. You know, they've been in this market maybe less than a year, at least that I'm aware of. And so I'm not sure how it's going to impact the overall market. I will say this, I will say that most contractors don't understand their numbers well enough to know how they should really charge. And so I think there is a negative impact when that happens to the community as a whole, because what happens is so many homeowners, they see this huge range in price. Why is this price up here and why is this price way down here? It's because they're comparing a private equity group to someone that's, running their office or facility out of their home. And not to knock that environment, what's more important is that somebody really knows their numbers, really knows the real cost, that it actually costs you to show up to a home, that it costs you to have the superintendent on those jobs. What's really happening at the end of the project, because those, smaller organizations, it's more challenging for them to stay around. And what a customer doesn't realize is if that business is not intelligent or not intelligent enough to operate without just that one owner being the head of everything, if something happens to that one person, their warranty's gone. Everything that they got, those promises they got in the home, they're not around anymore. And I got to see that firsthand even with my father. I never in a million years would have thought that my father would pass away when I was 27 years old unexpectedly. And so if there wasn't someone to continue to move the legacy forward, then the doors would have closed. And so a business being stable enough to operate without that owner is something that is good for the community. And a homeowner recognizing and realizing that, I think is important. And I think it raises the standard for how roofs get installed and ultimately reduces the amount of low quality jobs that happens. We get calls on roofs that are 2-3 years old all of the time, that standards just were not met with how it should have been installed. And so that's not always the case, but just weeding away those type of contractors, I think that is the good side of something like this.
Do you feel like we have too many roofers in this area? Do you have too many players, Chuck in the Truck, smaller, new competition?
So I did a search, BBB, I searched roofers in Myrtle Beach on BBB. There's 178 that say they service the Myrtle Beach area on their website. That's not including people that don't have it on their website, that don't have all of those other things. And so there is a lot of competition that's out there. In regards to whether it hurts or helps the market, I think one great thing about America is that when there's competition, it drives down price, it drives up quality. And so I think competition is a good thing. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just think that homeowners should know what they're choosing before they make a decision.
Love it. Brother, this is incredible. Good job on your early success. Years to come to you guys. Comment below what you think about this episode, and I'll see you in the next video.